No, I don't. No, no. I guess it's all Greek to me. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of World History. Thank you so much for watching. I may not speak Greek, but that's okay because the first civilization to live in Greece didn't either. But we'll get to that in a minute. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the geography of ancient Greece. We're going to talk about the first civilizations that lived there and how the geography really influenced how people lived there. So let's go ahead and get started by taking a look at this map right here. As you can see, Greece is a peninsula. Peninsula is an area of land surrounded by water, almost surrounded by water, at least on three sides. Running down the middle of this peninsula are the Pindos Mountains, and you can also see that there is a lot of islands in Greece surrounded by the Aegean Sea. So you've got a peninsula with a lot of mountains, a lot of water. So how does that influence how the ancient Greeks lived? Let's start by thinking about culture. Now, when two groups of people live very close to each other, they tend to have very similar cultures. In Greece, that's not the case. Remember the mountains running down the peninsula and the large amount of water in between the islands? People did not interact as often as, say, people in Egypt or Mesopotamia, where it was very easy to travel in between city-states. Because of this, the cultures that develop in Greece are very different from each other. For example, people didn't think of themselves as Greek. They would say, hey, I'm Spartan, or hey, I'm Athenian, or hey, I'm Delian, or Corinthian. There was not this idea of Greece. In fact, the biggest thing these groups of people had in common was the language they spoke. And that's why historians talk about it as one group, because they all spoke Greek. They had different governments that governed themselves. Sparta had an oligarchy and a king, and that made it decisions for Sparta. However, they did not make decisions for Athens. Athens had its own government that made decisions for Athens. Because of this, Greeks spent more time fighting each other typically than actually helping each other out. And you're going to see this when we talk about the Peloponnesian Wars. Another way geography influenced the ancient Greeks is because it's not easy to farm in the mountains, and the flat land that was in Greece did not have the best soil. So they had to find ways to gather food. They had to find ways to get food and materials to their city-states. And so they became very good at trading. They also set up colonies that were good areas for finding food and resources. If you don't remember what a colony is, you can check out this video right here. If you're looking at this on an iPhone or an iPad where that link's not going to work, the link's down in the description. You can find it there. Finally, the Greeks became very good at traveling at sea. They respected the sea. They thought the sea was a dangerous place, and sailing at this time was a pretty dangerous adventure. They would, for example, only sail during the day. They would set anchor at night. They didn't have maps that told them where to go. The only way they were able to tell where they were was by looking at the stars. So typically, Greeks sailed very close to land, where they could see the land to give them an idea of where they were actually at. Wow, that's some awesome hair right there. Yeah, that's not better. What? All right, there we go. So if on a test, for example, somebody asked you, hey, how does geography influence Greece? You could point to three things. Isolated cultures that were very different from each other. You could talk about trading and how the Greeks had to trade for their food and resources. And then you could talk about how they became expert sailors. If you really wanted to talk about food, you could talk about the fact that they had a lot of seafood in their diet, being so close to the ocean. So let's talk about two of the first civilizations in ancient Greece that had a huge influence on the whole Aegean Sea. These were the Minoans and the Mycenaeans. Now, the Minoans created an advanced society, a civilization, on the island of Crete. Because they lived on the sea, they became expert sailors, very, very good shipbuilders. These ships traded all along the Aegean Sea and carried things like wood and olive oil and pottery. And then they traded these things for silver and copper and gold and jewels. The Minoans are where we get the legend of the Minotaur. Get it? Minoans. Minotaur, yeah. And then they disappeared. Well, they didn't disappear. There was a volcano that exploded. It spread ash along Crete, ruining crops, probably killed some people, and they lost a lot of power.